Hey everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast, where you get to learn everything you want to know about addiction and recovery. I'm your host, Angela Pugh, co-founder of Kansas City Recovery, life coach, and recovering alcoholic. To learn more about me, you can listen to episode 0 on your podcast app or find us on the web at addictionunlimited.com. Hey everybody, welcome to the Addiction Unlimited podcast. I'm your host, Angela Pugh. Thank you, as usual, for spending some time with me today and listening to the pod. I so appreciate you guys. So today I want to start the show, first of all, just something a little bit different. I wanted to share a huge win for one of my clients. I love her. She has worked so hard, and she came to me about 2 years ago after a breakup. Her relationship wasn't super healthy. Her self-esteem was at an all-time low. She was questioning her judgment and really struggling to heal and move on. She felt like her whole future was bleak, and, she had all these future plans in her relationship and thought they were going to be together and build a family and all this stuff. And all of a sudden it was gone, right? And she didn't have any coping skills. And I think we can all relate to a lot of that, right? Everybody's been through a breakup. We know how terrible it feels. Even if your breakup isn't terrible, you still walk away with a sense of loss and disappointment, right? And I know for me, I can take that disappointment pretty heavily because I'm so introspective and always looking at myself and how could I have been better? And that's some of what we're going to talk about today too. But as many of you know, my whole premise in life, in my recovery coaching practice, my whole premise is to build the ultimate self-understanding and self-confidence and love so that we can create the life that we really want in our sobriety, in our relationships, in our businesses. This is all about really understanding who we are as individuals and where we need to get better and what our vision is, getting a really clear vision of the person I want to be and the life I want to have, and figuring out how to become the person to achieve that life, right? So this is the work we set out to do. And she has worked so hard, you guys, in the last 2 years, really digging deep, coming to terms with areas she needed improvement on, and really focusing on creating that clear vision. Last year, she met a new man and has worked really hard to create the right relationship for her. And now they are engaged. And I'm so crazy excited for them, for her especially, because obviously I've walked this path with her step by step and I've watched the work that she's done. I'm so proud of her for everything that she's done and for hanging in through the tears and hanging in when it didn't feel great and it was hard and it didn't make sense. And she has just done all the right work, and I'm so proud of her, and congratulations to her on her new engagement. And I can't wait to go to the wedding, and I can't wait to just continue working with her to make this relationship phenomenal. So this leads me to what I wanted to talk about today, right? Because in my sobriety, I feel like I have had a series of rock bottoms, right? You always hear everybody talk about rock bottom when people get sober. And for me, not only did I have my rock bottom that made me quit drinking, but through the course of my recovery, I've had all these other rock bottoms, all of these situations that hit me like a ton of bricks in the face, where I had to get serious about working on other areas of my life. You guys know the motto for me is, it's not about quitting drinking. It's about loving yourself so much you don't want to drink anymore. That's what everything is about to me. So in my personal journey, I've had all of these struggles, right? It's what makes me a great coach. I've had, because I've been through all of this stuff. I have made all the mistakes. I have been to the bottom of the bottom and the bottom of the bottle. So relationships and dating are no different, okay? When I was a drinking person, I had zero self-esteem. I was that chick that was super needy. I was a ton of drama. I was always starting arguments and fights with my man, whoever that was. I always picked terrible terrible people to date because I didn't feel good about myself, right? So feeling terrible about myself, I wasn't going to go out in the world and pick a wonderful person. I had to pick somebody who also was terrible. And because that's who I matched with, and that's what I thought I was worth. I didn't think I was worth any better than that. I had no self-esteem, no self-confidence. I had not created any sort of life for myself yet. I didn't know that I was a strong person. I didn't know I was a smart person. I really was just like that super dramatic, insecure chick that you see in movies and read about and whatever. So when I was about 4 years sober, I had what I call my relationship rock bottom. Because for all the years that I had dated in my adult life, and I got sober at 33, okay? So I had a lot of adult life that I was out in the world working and dating and doing regular life things. And when I was a drunk, I told you the kind of person that I picked. And always a drinking person, right? Because I was a drunk. I wasn't going to be with a non-drinking person. I did that briefly once. But of course, I couldn't hang on to that relationship because his life was in a very different space than mine. But you create these habits. You guys always hear me talk about it takes practice. It takes practice. So I had these habits of exactly the kind of person I always picked. Let's say from 21 to 33 was when I was really, a hot mess for all intents and purposes. I dated the same type of guy. I picked the same type of guy. I dated the same way. And it was always a disaster, right? So when I got sober at 33, I still picked my partners the same way. Because I had over a decade of building that habit and practicing that habit. So I still picked the same type of guy even when I got sober. And when I was about 4 years sober, I hit my relationship rock bottom. I found myself dating literally the worst person I had ever picked. Liar, cheater. I found out he had a whole separate apartment with a girl that lived with him. Drug addict, alcoholic. He was a mess. And of course, he treated me poorly because that's how he treated everybody. And I had this moment one night sitting at home. I think he was supposed to come over and he didn't. He bailed on me and he wasn't responding to text messages. He just ghosted me, which was not uncommon. And I had this moment sitting at my house where I was like, Angela, what the hell are you doing? This is ridiculous, because at that point I had some sobriety under my belt. I had started building a really nice life. In many other areas of my life, I was growing up and adulting and becoming productive, and I was starting to build that self-esteem and self-confidence. I had started going to school, and I was learning at that point that I was smart, or I was remembering that I was smart, because I was always a super nerd smart when I was little, but somewhere along the road, I had forgotten that. But when I started going to college at 37, I started to realize again, wow, I'm pretty smart. Homework comes easily to me. I retain information well, whatever. So in so many areas of my life, I really was rebuilding and I was feeling really good about myself. So I was thinking what the hell are you doing, dude? This is insanity. Why are you picking this kind of person to spend your time with? And even worse than that is I'm picking a total freaking loser and I can't even get a loser to care for me and treat me well, right? How bad must I be that a total POS guy, piece of shit for those of you that don't know, a total POS guy won't even care about me and treat me well. It was crazy. And I started to feel really embarrassed, right? And I was like, wow, this is what I'm doing. And this is what I'm looking like to the world. This is what I portray to people. And I started to realize that outside picture in me spending time with that type of guy and having that, partaking in that type of lifestyle, that outside picture did not any longer match my inside picture. Those two things didn't go together anymore. And this is something we talk about a lot in recovery too. They don't compare your outsides to other people's insides. Like I used to see happy couples holding hands, being so loving. And I would be like, oh my gosh, they have the perfect relationship. I can't wait till someday I can have a relationship like that. And the truth is like one of them was cheating on the other one. And you never know what's going on inside someone's relationship or inside someone's home. All you can see is the outside picture. So it's not healthy for me to compare what's going on inside of me and my longing and what I dream of having to the outside picture of this couple because I don't really know what that truth is. This is one of the biggest struggles with social media because all you see is everybody's outside picture. And now many people are so manipulative with how they create that outside picture because they want you to believe a certain thing. But don't get caught up in that because none of that outside picture is necessarily the inside truth. So keep that in mind. And that's what I was realizing about myself. My inside truth no longer matched my outside picture. And I really wanted to get my shit together. This is something I do with all of my clients, almost all my clients. We do what's called a mind map, right? So I sat down and I did a mind map. I mapped out all the qualities I wanted in my perfect mate, right? Obviously, nobody's perfect. If you have a list of 20 things, you're not going to find one person with all 20 things. So you have to be realistic about this. But it is good. You guys always hear me say, have a clear vision. It's so good to have a clear vision of what you really want this to look like. So I made my list of qualities that I wanted my man to have, right? I want my man to be honest and driven and hardworking, motivated, dedicated, dependable, kind, generous, all these things, right? So I create this list of qualities that I wanted my dream man to be. And what happened is when I sat back and I read down that list, I realized that I was not any of those things. And I can't tell you, I still have that list, actually, the very first one I ever did. And I can't tell you every single thing that it said now, but I know as I went down that list, I was none of those things. I was not educated yet, right? I was just starting to go to college. I didn't have a career. I was still bartending. And not that bartending's not a career. If you're down with that, go for it. It's the greatest job in the world. I loved it. But as I got old, it wasn't so fantastic anymore. Old and sober, by the way. So it was definitely time for me to shift gears. But I read down that list and I was none of those things. And that was really, really bothersome to me. Now, at the same time, when I did that mind map of my perfect guy and those qualities, I also did a list of deal breakers. Because it's hard when you meet somebody and they're really hot and they're funny and charming and I get butterflies in my little tummy when I see them or hear their voice or get a text message from them. At that point, it's really hard to remember your deal breakers because you want to start ignoring every one of those things. You know, I want to start going, well, maybe that's not such a big deal. Like I really don't like cigarettes, right? I don't want to be around cigarettes. I don't want to smell like cigarettes. I have a lot of hair. And if cigarette smoke gets in my hair, it's like I have to go shower immediately. So smoking is one of my deal breakers. It's just not my thing. I don't want to be around it. I don't care if anybody smokes, right? I have plenty of friends that smoke. It's not that I think people are bad. It's that I don't want it on me. So that's a challenge, right? I don't want to go out to dinner with my guy and we have dinner and he's got to stop and smoke before we get in the car, or he's constantly got to go outside to smoke cigarettes. We're trying to spend quality time at home watching Netflix and he's going outside to smoke or whatever. It's just, it doesn't fit my lifestyle. It's not what I want. And by the way, you are perfectly allowed to not want whatever the hell you don't want. Don't feel bad for having certain deal breakers. It's not, as long as it doesn't come from a place of judgment. Like I said, I don't care if anyone smokes. It's not about that for me. It's just not a part of my lifestyle. And in my whole picture of my lifestyle and how focused I am on constantly improving and being better and self-love and self-confidence, cigarette smoking just doesn't go with that, right? It's just not my vibe. So don't ever feel bad for your deal breakers or for things that you don't like. Everybody is perfectly allowed to not like whatever they don't like. And remember, whenever you meet somebody, you're going to have qualities that they don't like. It all comes out in the wash. Don't ever feel bad for deal breakers. Anyway, when I meet somebody, if he's really hot and charming and funny and educated and all these things that I love, all of a sudden, I'll want to start forgetting my deal breakers. And if that same guy will go out and smoke, I'll be like, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. Maybe it's not that bad. But the truth is it's bad, because after the newness of those butterflies wears off and you date somebody, after the newness wears off, that's going to be a huge issue for me. And I don't want to make anybody feel bad, right? I don't want to hurt anybody. So for me, it's just not worth it to open that door, because it is a deal breaker for me. So anyway, I made my list of qualities I wanted. I made my list of deal breakers. Narcissism is a big one for me. I'm so done. I chose narcissist my whole life. It's exhausting. There's a certain level, there's a whole thing called narcissistic abuse. So those relationships are abusive to a certain point. It really can beat you down in your self-esteem. So narcissism, absolute deal breaker for me. I don't want any more of that in my life, for sure. Now, I also have to look at these things within myself, right, and make sure I'm not getting carried away with that stuff too. So when I looked at my list and realized that I was none of those things, my sole focus in my life shifted to becoming every one of those things on my list. Because if I want my dream man to bring this list to the table, these are the qualities I want him to bring to the relationship, then I damn well better be able to bring it too, right? Fair is fair. If I have these expectations of someone else, and I know this is the type of person I can be in a healthy relationship with, then I need to bring it. And that's where my focus was. Becoming all of those things on that list myself, and building my self-esteem and building my life to be stable and self-sufficient and secure so that I could bring all those things to a relationship too. And that's my relationship rock bottom, right? It took 4 years sober, dating the absolute worst person I had ever dated, right? He was so drunk and strung out on cocaine. I swear to you, if I called him right now, he might not even remember dating me, for crying out loud. Like, that's how bad it was. But through the course of my recovery, I've had all kinds of different rock bottoms. I just posted on Instagram today. I just posted something about making a shitload of errors, right? And that's what spurred this whole conversation for me, because that's how you get smart. That's how you get strong. That's how you learn to deal with your life. That's how you create powerful sobriety and powerful self-esteem so that you can create the life that you want and create the relationships that you want. You don't get all of those things without a shitload of errors, without failure, without falling on my face. I have to go through those things to get strong and brave and courageous, and to be able to face my life and my issues, to be able to get through those things, to cope with all those things, to take it one step at a time, right? It's all through trial and error and practicing new behaviors. As you learn, you need new behaviors. So I hope all of that made sense. Again, you guys know I created that new Facebook group, and we talk a little more in depth about this stuff on the group. It's growing. I love that. Thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited about that. It's facebook.com/groups/Addiction Unlimited. Or I'm sure you could go to Facebook and in the search bar put Addiction Unlimited, and you'll probably find it that way too. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. I love you guys. Thank you for all the questions. Thank you for reviews. Thank you for joining the Facebook group. I will see you guys next week.
You've reached the end of another great episode of the Addiction Unlimited podcast. Candid and honest conversation about addiction and recovery. Be sure to visit us at addictionunlimited.com to join the conversation and access show notes and links to everything we talked about. Love this episode? Please take 30 seconds to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes to help us improve and give you the information you want. Thanks for listening. See you next week.